Hey guys, it's Saturday night, probably bedtime for a lot of you guys, but me and the kids are down here at the church, and we were sitting at the round table and discussing the cross, the day Jesus died, and some questions came up about the language that was spoken and Elias, and so Elizabeth proceeded to look up some words in the dictionary or in the concordance, to try to clarify some questions she had about what Jesus had said when he was on the cross. And so I thought it was fascinating that she had her own little Bible study going on there, because her and Timmy was going back and forth from what they've learned in school and the different Bible accounts that led up to that day. And so I'm going to put the camera back on her so she can explain to me again kind of what she just said to me. And then we're going to go into our Bibles and kind of search it out for ourselves, just open book. We may be wrong, we may be right. Y'all can input, you can comment, and maybe more people can give some insight on that tonight or when you see the video, and you can share it maybe, and maybe we can get a roundtable discussion going about the topic for the kids here, and give them something else to study on maybe next time. So with that, I'm just going to turn the camera around because they're both just studying more, and then I'll just come in whenever I have something to say as well. So again, Lizzie, what was it that you had originally said to me a while ago about how this started, what we was talking about?
Well, me and Timmy were looking through the book, trying to see what we knew most about the Bible, and we read a question that said, what did the priest do with the money from Judas that they had paid Judas and he threw back down? And it says that they spent on a graveyard.
So they spent the money they threw down on a graveyard.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'd never heard of that. Mm-hmm. So I looked it up, and I looked up death to see if
Where
I could
was
find
the
out.
one about the graveyard? Because I didn't turn to it. I don't know.
It was just a question that was in here.
Judas agreeing with betraying Jesus. And there one of the 12 called Judas Iscariot went out into the chief priests, saying to them, what will ye give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they convinced him 30 pieces of silver.
Is that it?
And this says Matthew 27, 6-7.
Okay, let's go to Matthew 27.
27.
6-7. I'm in Matthew 27 already.
Okay.
Matthew 27, what?
Just a minute, Timmy. 27.
6-7. Don't read that.
Go ahead, Liz.
And the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful to put them in the treasury, because it is the price of blood. And they took to council and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. So
they actually thought, you know what? Let's go vote on this, basically. Let's go to the council and let's discuss this and find out what we're going to do with this silver pieces here. They didn't just someone do it. They actually got together and discussed it. Mm-hmm. And they took the council.
They were feeling guilty. They're
right.
Like, what
are we going to do with it? Yeah, what are we going to do with this money? And so they bought them the potter's field to bury strangers in. So they made a cemetery, basically.
No, can I?
Wherefore the field was called the field of blood unto this day.
And that's kind of sad. The field of blood, because people lost their lives and they buried them. We don't have anything like that nowadays. We call our places cemeteries where we put our loved ones, not necessarily the ones that was killed, you know. So if we had something like that nowadays, it would be kind of awkward. But back then, that's kind of how you got punishment. You was killed and buried, I guess. So it was a field of blood.
Well, as I was looking that up, I looked up death in the concordance, and I read something about Eli, and that reminded me in my Bible class how we always are talking about the life of Jesus, the last week of him, and he said that statement, and we would quote it a lot, and I was just thinking how we always say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? But in that time, he actually used a different language. They translated that. But the people that were around Jesus when he said that didn't even know what he was saying. It says that some of them thought that he was calling for Elias. Others gave him a drink
Where are we at?
of vinegar. Matthew 27, verse 46 through 50.
You can read it.
And it says, "And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there when they heard that said, This man calleth for Elias. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink."
So you're saying that he said this, and we've translated it into, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? But some people thought that he had said Elias.
Yes, and others thought he wanted a drink. And there it says, the rest said, let us see whether Elias will come to save him.
So maybe that group or those people was saying that he was calling for Elias to save him, and so maybe the ones that took the sponge was trying to be rude to him in that way. You know, he's calling for help. Let's go hurt him instead. Let's put a sponge with vinegar on it in his mouth, and now let's see if Elias will come save him. You know what I'm saying? So, is it that they thought he said Elias, and then they wanted Elias to come save him, so they was torturing him with that sponge with vinegar? Or do they really think that he was asking for something to drink?
Well, it doesn't say they tortured him or...
Well, if anybody put sponge with vinegar in my mouth, it'd be torture if I was hanging on a cross.
Well, I read in my class that they mixed the vinegar with a numbing medicine to help ease the pain.
Well, that's a different look on it. Because,
yeah, it says they would give that to each of them a drink before they nailed him to the cross. And then it says here that they gave him more vinegar. So that could have been...
Okay, so if it was for easing pain, then they was trying to give him some relief until Elias would come, possibly.
Yes,
Timmy?
It says right here, the last in Matthew 25 in the last OT prophecy fulfilling Matthew 27 and 46, but it says Psalms 22 and 1, and it's still there. Matthew 27, 46, Mark 15, 34, and Psalms 21 and 1.
What do those verses have to do with Elias?
Because Elias...
What was the one the Matthew, what was below the Matthew one you said?
Psalms.
Let's go look at Psalms.
Psalms what?
22, 2 and 2, 1.
Psalms 22.
Can you say it? That one?
Yeah.
Look
22 and what?
1.
No, 1.
Hey, it does say that.
Yeah.
My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from helping me and from the words of my roaring?
22.
It says that David said that.
22.
So that's a verse relating to someone else that said the same thing.
22
Right.
and 1.
But it don't say he used a different language.
My God.
It says over here that Jesus actually said Eli, Eli, lama
Right.
sabachthani, and then that is to say. That means they translated it.
Next verse in 6, it says, but no. Verse 6 was in Matthew.
Matthew 6?
Yeah, Matthew did chapter 26.
Matthew 26 and 6?
No, 27 and 6.
Matthew 27 and 6.
Yes.
That's back to the chief priest taking the silver
Yes.
pieces and buying the graveyard.
But it says I looked it up. It said putting blood money into the treasury was lawful, but shedding the same betraying innocent blood was lawful in the sight of the hypocrites.
Where's that?
I have this right here.
Putting the blood money into the treasury was unlawful, but shedding the same betrayed and innocent blood was lawful into the sight of these hypocrites. So it was unlawful to put the money into the treasury, but it was lawful to kill the man for it.
Right. So we know he spoke in the other language, and they translate it here, like over in Psalms. And then he was given the sponge with vinegar, which I've always thought that it was a torturing thing, because I can't imagine having vinegar put in my mouth when I'm thirsty.
Well, my Bible teacher has said that scholars have found out that they would get the vinegar and mix it with a numbing medicine,
right,
and give it to them when they were lying down on the cross, and then they would nail them or tie them up to the cross and put them up. And then it says that they gave him vinegar, so I thought that maybe they just gave him more numbing medicine.
May have been.
They might have thought he was hurting again.
Right, and then because he said this, why hast thou forsaken me? But then some of them said, this man called for Elias.
And
now, why did
Elias?
they say Elias?
I've heard of Elisha and Elijah, but is Elias another name for God? I've never even heard of it.
Well, if you see, it says Eli, Eli.
Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani.
Right, so they're saying he's calling for Elias because he was saying Eli, Eli. And then below that is, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? So at this point, they were saying that he was calling on God, Elias.
Now it's saying Elotes, lama basnachni, which in German, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Yeah, that's what we just read.
Mm-hmm.
But we're determining, they're saying he called for Elias, and that word Eli, Eli is where they're coming up with that, I guess. You know, and then they're saying we're going to see whether he'll come save him.
Well,
if Elias will come save Jesus.
Well, it says
so
question.
Elias is another name for God.
Well, question
he
C.
did talk another language that they understood then.
Yeah, because Eli, Eli says, my God, my God.
Then why did some of them get the vinegar? Did they think he was just hurting, and that's why he said, why did God forsake him?
Probably. He was hurting so bad. He was saying, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? He was, in their words, Elias, Elias, why hast thou forsaken me? So they sponge him, and they're going to see whether Elias will come to save him.
It says C.
Well, in my Bible class, once they did that, it says that he repeated it again.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, when he cried again with a loud voice.
Right.
Then he yielded up the ghost.
It says conversion, question C. Conversion still ranks as what language Christ spoken here. Some say Hebrew, others say Syrians, and others say Amnok. One thing is simple, no one near the cross seemed to understand what he said. And there were people there who could understand all this language.
Okay, so controversy still rages onto what language Christ spoke. So people actually don't know what he said. And it says, some say Hebrew, others say Syriac, and still others say Aramaic. One thing is certain, no one near the cross seemed to understand what he said, and there was people there who could understand all these languages. So they don't know what he said, but all of them knew those three languages that they thought he was speaking. So is there like a different language in heaven that he was speaking or something?
It was something probably that only God understood.
Then how did they translate it?
Well, people that wrote the Bible translated it based on Hebrew, Greek, things like that. They threw the best fitting, and then with people that made the Bible, there was tons of people that got together to translate it. So this is the best translation that they come up with for what was said. Mm-hmm. But the controversy of what did he say, no one knew what language it actually was. maybe where it says that is to say, see, that's what we wrote there, the people that made the Bible. This was translated. But the people there that day may not have understood what he said.
It says they didn't.
Right.
So if they translated it, if they based it on Hebrews, or if the scholars that translated the King James Version, if they translate into my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Did they translate it out of a language, like, is the Bible that they used to translate into this, did it have
it had
in
this
Hebrew the translation too, what they meant, or did it just say Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, and they understood
that? I'm not sure. I'd have to get Dad's Greek Bible out and see if it says those words, and then they translated it into this, or if it said
just that.
Just that.
Because if it's just that, then someone understood it enough to translate it into
right.
us. Once he was killed, or once he gave up his spirit, he didn't have to die. He could have kept alive no matter what. But once he gave up his spirit, it says that the veil of the temple was rent in two. And in my Bible class, it don't say here, but it says in my Bible class that they think that God's unseen hands ripped it, meaning that even the humblest person could go to him now.
Yep, I would think that too.
And then there was several miracles that followed Christ's death. The veil was opened, an earthquake happened, and rocks rent. The graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose and walked through the city. Now, if some dead saint went through and walked to me, I'd be pretty scared, because more likely if he's dead and he's a saint, he's going to know everything I've done, and, well, he's a dead man walking. So, yeah.
Yeah, dead man walking.
Dead man walking.
But all the questions you could ask him.
Yeah, he would know all the answers, probably.
And came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city and appeared unto many.
And the centurion that was watching Jesus saw the earthquake and those things that were done. They feared greatly, saying, truly, this was the Son of God.
I would definitely, if I seen that happen, who wouldn't fall to their knees and say, this is true. This really is true.
And if you're one of those that said, kill him, man,
and you
I'd
know
be scared.
How realistic this had to be for the people that wrote the Bible to write this, and then for the people that found the Bible to translate it. There was bodies that walked the earth after this happened.
I wonder if they died again, or if they went to heaven a day after.
It don't mention that, I guess. So
did
they go back and sleep again? Did they
just walk that day?
The spirit just dissipate? I mean, And the only reason they, in my opinion, the graves were open and the bodies of the saints which slept arose, that didn't have to happen. But with that kind of thing happening, it shows God's power. That's stuff you can look at and go, God is here.
Yeah, many thought that just the graves were open because of the earthquake, but that didn't bring people back to life.
Right, exactly. And so, these kinds of things happened to see God's power. If it hadn't had the dead people walking, it would have just been an earthquake. They would have just said the earth shook. What a coincidence. But when you see dead bodies coming out...
And they're saying that, not just some bad men that came alive.
Right, you have to know that something miraculous was happening, and all because of the death of Christ. I mean, I'm not, like I said, there's no reason for all that to happen except to show his power. Because he didn't have to do anything but just go to sleep and take him off the cross and bury him, and that could have been it. But all this resurrection stuff happening and graves being opened, if you don't believe it, you never would.
And it says, I'm looking, and it said God wasn't crucified, but 4 soldiers were employed in nailing him to the cross.
Probably because they thought he was going to run away or something.
Yeah, probably so.
After Jesus died, and there was some Pharisees that many think were actually secret disciples. There was 2 of them. One came with pounds of innocent to wrap him in, and the other had the cloths, and then they were both going to put him in the other one's tomb. I forget their names. Joseph of Arimathea.
Mm-hmm.
And it says he who also himself was a Jesus disciple.
Right.
He was the rich man. But then there was another one that came, and he was actually a Pharisee. It doesn't say. It was Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a Pharisee, and they didn't say he was a believer, but many think he was a secret believer.
I think there was a lot of secret believers.
But after they took him, they cleaned him, put him in the tomb, and then the Pharisees still worried that the disciples were going to come steal his body and say that he rose again, because he said, "After 3 days, I will rise again." You remember right before that, before Jesus died and Jesus was ministering in the temple, he said he would destroy this temple and he would rebuild it again in 3 days.
Right.
They thought he meant the actual temple.
Right.
And now they actually think he means his body. So I don't understand when they changed their mind or what.
Elias is God, is Jehovah.
Yeah, that's what we was thinking earlier. They translated the word Eli, Eli. The people that wrote the Bible translated that sentence into what we understand what it says.
Oh.
So that the rest of that makes more sense.
Elias is a form of Elijah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if they meant Elijah or if they meant
Right.
God.
But
either one probably
the translators of the KJV have put that is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? So they translated it into the correct language that they could get. Like I said, based on the people that translated it, there was a ton of people that translated it. Each person have to go word by word and approve the correct pronunciation to get it as accurate as possible. That's why sometimes it's a little bit confusing, but with God's help, we can figure it out. We don't have to have someone chop it up for us. We just use what we've got. But definitely a good translation. And you're going into the Hebrew or Greek. What was it? Hebrew. So, and even now, you could probably ask the Hebrew scholars and that sort of thing, and they would be able to translate those words that he said, that he mouthed at that point. Maybe back then, he was up on a cross, it was hard to hear him, It's like, what did he say? He said this. No, he said this. And they put it together, and this is what he said. Now let's translate it.
Yeah, about the crosses, many think there was 2 types of crosses. There was a T-shaped one, and there was the one that Jesus was on, which was the other T-shaped one.
Yeah, I've heard of that, but...
Well, in my Bible class, the scholars have actually found 3 different types. There was the 2 T's, and there was an actually X'd one.
And what was the differences?
Well, the one Jesus was on, they would nail you on. The other one, they would normally tie you on. And then the X one, it didn't say what they did to you. But if it was an X, did they make you, do the splits and do it on it or something? That one seems to be
I guess it depends
bad.
on the punishment. I know they say the T one is more on it gets your air, takes your lungs. You can't breathe.
Well, actually, they don't know what Christ was put upon, which cross, but they think it's the T1 because it says he was put upon the cross.
Right.
Cross. But do we even know if cross is what they used back then, or did they actually mean the cross lines, or what?
That I don't know. Maybe over the years we still called it the same thing, and it still looked the same way, and traditionally it looked like this, so that's what it must have been.
They gave him vinegar to drink mingled with gall. Is that
that's bitter.
The Gall.
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 That's bitter.
And when he had tasted, therefore he would not drink.
So he didn't even want nothing after he got that in his mouth.
Well, I was taught in my Bible class that when they gave him that, he wouldn't drink it because he didn't want the numbing of the pain. He wanted to feel the full thing.
I've heard that before too.
He wanted to feel the full thing so he could suffer the full thing.
I've heard that too. Yeah, that he didn't want to be relieved. He wanted to endure it through God.
So maybe that's the. So he didn't have no really of it. I thought he had some relief. I didn't remember.
Right. I mean, you have to just look at all of it. It kind of, sometimes it goes back and forth.
I think it's neat how they parted Jesus' garments. They gave him a pretty robe and took him to the cross, and his garments, they took him back off him, and they parted it just to fulfill prophecy way back in the other part of the Bible. And then they sat down and watched them.
New Testament.
They put that sign up there, Jesus, the King of the Jews. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. And actually, the Pharisees wanted him to take it back down. Right, that he called himself the King of the Jews.
Elias.
But the Pilate wouldn't have it. He said, "This is the King of the Jews." His wife, Pilate's wife, told him, "Don't have anything to do with this man, for I've had many bad dreams about him." She couldn't do nothing. She had to say something because she felt so guilty about it. And she had nothing to do with it. But
I like here where it's saying that the next day that followed the day of the preparation, the priests and Pharisees came together to Pilate. "Sir, we remember that deceiver, and he said that while he was yet alive, after 3 days, I will rise again." Now, can you see him going up to Pilate? "Sir, that deceiver said he was going to rise again."
yeah, but when did they change their minds? I thought he meant to build the temple up again.
Right. So command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night. They're like, "Oh, you better secure it good, because somebody's going to come and steal him away and say that he's risen from the dead. So the last error shall be the worse than the first." And Pilate said, You have a watch. Go your way. Make it as sure as you can." So they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch. They put guards out there because, it was so serious, this imposter.
I read that they put four of them out there. And that when the angel set up on that stone and moved in the earthquake and stuff, that they passed out like dead men.
Yeah. So, that they may have,
There's debate if they passed out because God told them to pass out, if they were just practically
it was so
scared
overwhelming.
There's an angel
yes,
there.
And they just couldn't take it. Overwhelming.
Yeah. Oh, I just thought it was weird how all 4 passed out, so it had to be like God or something is what I thought.
It could have been that he passed them out.
Made him go to
so
sleep.
They couldn't be part of it, and in Mexico, we was invisible to the guards. God sent us right through them guardsmen with rifles, and they just went to the next car.
Yeah.
So, he can do what he needs to make something happen. And so, yeah, miracles do happen like that, and that was kind of like a miracle in itself. To put them to sleep real quick. Well,
Search up more.
Is that all y'all got?
I was wondering about the rapture.
I think I got my answers, mainly.
What, Timmy?
I was thinking about the rapture.
Okay, well, we're talking right now about the crucifixion and his comment, basically. His comment.
Eli, lama sabachthani.
Yes, what did he say? How come we translated to say that? And
if he was a different language when he spoke.
Was it a different language? We talked about the vinegar. Was it bitter? Was it a numbing medicine? Why didn't he take it? Was it because he didn't want to be numbed, or because he wanted to feel the full effects? He wanted to let God be God? Was it that it was so bitter that he couldn't drink? We don't, those are things we've talked about.
Well, if it was so bitter he couldn't drink, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't do it every crucifixion. Or the people would have drank it.
Yeah, like I said, I've heard that it's bitter. They do it on purpose.
I've heard
you know,
that it's
and I've
a
heard
medicine.
that
They put some a wine in there.
again, and those translations of what it's in the vinegar goes back to what it was, what they used to do back in those days, and you have to search these histories out to find, you know, what stuff was made of, what they used it for, when they used it, and then they apply it to these scriptures to be the best fit we can find. You know, it had to be like this. You know, the locust and wild honey story is another one. You know, people have different interpretations of what the locust was and stuff. So it just is what it is.
Some call the locust an actual locust. Some say it was crickets.
Right.
Some say other things.
Right.
But about the cross again, actually my Bible class, I learned that they found out that they would add just a little slight peg to it for them to sit on and would relieve pain. But there's debate on that too. They said that it was spiky and it would hurt to sit on it. It hurt,
yes. So you would like try to edge it or something, and then your body would bow and you can't breathe. That's other interpretations also. And all of them may be accurate. In some way, depending on what cross and what punishment he was getting.
Just a couple of days ago, my Bible teacher brought a 3-inch, an inch thick and a 3-inch nail. That is what they would use to put through your ankles and your wrists.
Because they had to go through your body and through the wood.
They said they would actually, that scientists studied where they put it and stuff.
There's more here, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, they said that they actually put it where it would support your weight yet cause the most pain.
Right.
They didn't do the easiest pain, the most pain.
Oh, no.
They said they wanted you to suffer.
Oh, yeah.
It said that Rome was one of the cruelest empires out there. They really were strict upon you, we rule kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they did the crucifixions to show the passerbyers. I mean, Mount Gotha, or whatever it's called, where he was killed. That place was right by the main street out of the city, so all the passerbyers and the people that came and visited and left the city would see the crooks and whoever was put there. Of course, Jesus wasn't a crook, but they would see it and know that Rome wouldn't take your craziness.
Now, over here on 27 and 33, it says, "And when they were come into a place called Golgotha," that is to say, the place of a skull, they gave him vinegar to drink, mingled with gall, and when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. Now, my Bible is telling me over here in Psalms 69 and 21. 69 and 21, it says, "They gave me also gall for my meat, and in my thirst they gave me vinegar to drink." So, and then again, back over here on number 2734, my Bible's got it noted here that the vinegar and drink mingled with gall was more like a wine.
I learned that it was a wine.
Yeah. And that would be, I could see some numbing effects in that.
Like cloudy.
Yeah, I could see that being a numbing effect and also a bitter effect. But being that it was wine, maybe Jesus wouldn't drink it. You know?
Because it was like, that would make you drunk kind of thing.
So.
And when you weren't saying...
Because it says when he tasted it. So he did taste it, and then he refused. He knew what it was at that point.
God.
You know, so he did refuse it.
Oh. This is right here.
Wonder if he refused it because he knew it was bad, or
because he didn't want the numbing effect. Right, exactly. Either way, he tasted it and decided, nope, don't want that.
They said...
Whether it be because of the wine or because he wanted to suffer full effects.
They said, it says, Hebrew, the word rose, is poison herb, venom. Deuteronomy 29:18, 32, chapter 32, Jeremiah 18:14, 9 and 15, 23 and 15, Lamentation 3 and 5.
Okay, you got way too many going on there, bud. That keep me focused on which one you're on.
First is Deuteronomy 29 and 18.
So pretty much the vinegar and stuff was a bad wine, and Jesus either knew it, that it was wine, and wanted to drink it because that would make you like drunk, or he didn't want to have the numbing effect. If there was a numbing effect, like the scientists think.
So, for those that are just tuning in, we've been discussing Matthew 27 and 46 down through the rest of that chapter. And just now we was discussing the vinegar that was placed in Jesus' mouth and how it was mingled with gall. And in my text, it says that it's like a wine. In Elizabeth's class, they've also learned that it had a numbing effect, which would be kind of like the wine. It would have a numbing effect or a wine effect. And he refused it after he tasted it. So he had to have known that it was either numbing effect and he didn't want to deal with the numbing effect of the wine, or it was so horrible that he refused it and he didn't even want to drink. But that's where we're at right now. But we had originally been talking about just his text there and what he actually said on the cross and how come people didn't really know what he said. So they assumed he was asking for Elias to come and save him. But after the vinegar and he didn't take it, he cried aloud again, and then he passed. So it was pretty serious, but definitely the vinegar. If you have any input on that, you can comment down below. Anybody that has an idea of that. But we're thinking it's more like it was a wine effect. He refused it because he wanted to. He didn't want them to take away any of the pain, physical pain. He wanted to endure it, like Jesus or like God had told him to do, and so he refused it to be what God called him to be. Is that what you were saying, Elizabeth? Basically.
Yeah. Like there's several different ways on what they thought the vinegar was. If it was just vinegar, or if he just didn't like the vinegar because it was the taste, even though that would be really yucky, just vinegar alone.
We taste a bad pickle or a really vinegary pickle, and our jaws shrink up, and we can't talk for a minute, and we need some water to get rid of the flavor, and that's with some dill mixed with it. I can't imagine vinegar if it was just vinegar.
And then with the bitter gall.
And if it had the wine taste, I mean, I've never drank wine, but I hear it can be fiery, it can be bitter, it can be yummy, they say, some people, because of the fruit flavor or something, but for the most part it's fiery or, something like that. So
I think my most logical reasons, I think it was the wine that he turned it down for, because it was a wine. He probably did want to feel the full effect of the pain too, but I think his main reason to turn it down was because he wanted to feel he didn't want
to take away.
He didn't want to be drunk.
Right.
That was a sin. So.
Yeah, and back then wine was a common drink. That's what they drank at their dinners and things.
Squash grapes. And
right. They actually made it, but he also had said not to drink wine to where it's excess because it did make them drunk. He knew that, so he told people that throughout the Bible not to drink wine in excess because of that. So he obviously didn't want to drink it himself either.
This is right here. I'm looking up another Bible verse. It was the day when John the Baptist was preaching. It says Elias it says Satan knew that this is a seed of the woman was crush his head and restore men dominion. So he tried many times to kill him before he could get to the cross to defeat him.
Okay. Well, anything else?
I had something, I forgot what it was.
I just noticed up here, the thieves also, which were crucified with him, cast the same in his teeth.
Where is that?
27 and 44.
27 and 44.
Yeah, cast the same in his teeth.
44.
I am the Son of God.
I'm not there.
Well, the verse 43 said, he trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. And then the thieves also, which were with him, crucified with him, cast the same in his teeth. So maybe they were just saying it too. Or maybe in his teeth was a way they said, that's
way
what
to
he
insult
said.
him or something,
Yeah,
maybe?
that's what he said. Or maybe.
What does it say? Where is it? 27 and 44?
Mm-hmm.
44.
Maybe somebody watching has read that before. I've never actually, I don't remember ever reading that.
I don't remember ever reading it either. And we've done
Matthew
sermons on that a
27
lot.
and 44. The thieves also, which were crucified with Jesus, cast the same in his teeth.
What they cast
I
in his
really
teeth?
don't know what
Words?
that means, honestly.
Maybe it's the way they put words in his
I have
mouth.
to
or
ask
something.
Daddy when he gets up here what that's talking
maybe
about.
Number 2. Maybe Mark would tell us about the casting in his teeth. Casting in his teeth.
But they had a lot of sayings.
Yes, they did.
Different. My Bible teacher, he was a missionary for 15 years in Africa, and he says their language a lot. They had a saying, be all eyes and ears, means be alert.
Right.
But their language, of course, isn't English, so you had to translate that for us.
Well, I think we're going to close it off. It's getting kind of late. But, anyway, Timmy, you want to say a prayer for us to close this off?
Yes. Thank you for this night, and keep us next morning time. If in Jesus' name, amen.
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 So, guys, one last thing. If you can comment on anything that you've heard us talking about, have some better input than we have. Again, this is some stuff I really never studied it out. And it was just an open table topic that was being tossed around with the kids. So we decided to dig into a little bit before we went home. And so I'd appreciate your input. You can comment below, and we'll look over the comments later to see if anybody can help us understand those topics a little better.
Could be someone
That knows more, like Dad or Uncle Jeff or Aunt Lori. Somebody else has studied it more than myself. But anyway,
I do see several of the verses we just heard today.
Right. So, okay, well, we're going to turn you loose. I'm glad there's somebody watching out there. Some of you guys I don't know. I know Donna. I see Donna's watching. So, we'll talk soon.